Hello, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can use SpiraPlan to build out a project around compliance for regulations. I've logged into SpiraPlan and I'm using the AI Wizard at Inflectra.ai, going to the main navigation, and I'm going to create a brand new project. Now for this project, it's going to be a project around compliance. And I'm telling it that the project is going to be a compliance project for a large Singapore bank. And from there, I now need to give it a description of what the project's about. And here's my description. And what I'm telling it is I want the bank has to align with major Singaporean regulatory standards, including the multi-tier cloud security level 3 standard. It's mandated for public sector and regulated workloads. The bank also holds the OSPAR Attestation for the financial sector and complies with the Monetary Authority of Singapore Technology Risk Management. And this project is to ensure that an IT system meets the regulatory requirements of these regulatory standards. So with that, I enter that description. And Spira is now building out a project for this set of requirements. So it first of all creates the project itself. So it's completed a compliance project for a large Singapore bank, and it's using this information here to build out the initial set of requirements. So it's created 7 top-level requirements. Now, I want to have a more detailed project than that, so I'm going to tell it to create the child requirements for me. So it's going to take each of those 7 top-level compliance requirements and build out the one level deeper. So it will now have when this is finished, a 2-level hierarchy, which will cover all of the requirements for a compliance project for a Singapore bank, focusing on these 3 particular standards: the cloud security, the OSPAR Attestation, and the mass technology risk management assessment. And this is finishing it up. Once it's finished, one more to go, we will have an entire backlog of requirements built for the project. Now, I could use the wizard here to create test cases and tasks, but I want to show you that more interactively. So I'm going to do that one by one in the project. So to access the project, I just click on this link, and that's going to put up in my other tab over here the compliance project I just created. So there's the project name. There's a description defining the overall standards we want to meet. And if I now jump into the requirements section, you can see we've now got a series of requirements. It's created a total of 44 detailed requirements. And if I expand the navigation to show all of them, you can see they start with a top level compliant requirement. And then below that, they build it down into the individual child items that are the individual standards that meet that overall compliance. So MTCS Level 3, OSPAR, and mass technology. And then it also has decided, based on my wider prompt around the fact that this is a regulatory project and I'm going to be doing an audit, it's created several other requirements around regulation generation, document generation, and audit readiness. And then also it's got continuous monitoring, training, and awareness as basically swim lanes that cut across all 3 of the individual standards. If I had chosen the option at the beginning to create all the tests and risks, it would build out the entire project. But I want to show you that a little bit more detailed. So if we look at this MTCS Level 3 compliance, how about we look at the last one, system and application security compliance. So we're going to click on that one. And for this item, you'll see that SpiraPlan has created not just the title, it has also built out a more detailed definition right here. And if I navigate the other items in the tree, like an incident response plan, you can see it does the same thing. Each of these comes with a rich requirement definition, including continuing monitoring, attestation process, user access control, compliance documentation, network security. Each of these things are here. You can hover the mouse over the tooltip as well if you want to see them. So anyway, let's go back to our original one, which was system and application security. So how do we verify that particular requirement is met? So to do that, we go into our test coverage tab, and we can use the Inflectra.ai functionality here to generate the appropriate tests that will be used to verify level 3 system and application security compliance. So it's going to create a series of test cases. In this case, it's creating 10 individual tests and controls. And if I hit refresh, you'll see them right here. Everything from secure coding practices, vulnerability management, patch management, configuration management, and so on. Let's look at secure coding practices. So I'll bring that up on a separate tab. And you can see it's built out for each of these, not just the overall control, but the individual actions to verify the control. And it's done that for each one. Now, as well as being able to test that particular compliance requirement, let's go to tasks. What would it take to actually build out that set of requirements? We can choose tasks as well. So not only can we build out the controls, we can also build out the work breakdown structure for actually implementing that compliance and making sure that our systems do comply. And you can see there's our tasks, which include conducting an audit, training, implementing the practices, monitoring, setting up CI/CD pipelines so it's automated and not simply done once at a time, security reviews, and so on and so forth. So you can see here, these are the individual tasks we need to carry out to meet that security standard, as well as the tests and controls that we have. And lastly, obviously we can put these into practice, but there's always the risk something will fall through the cracks. How can we do a risk analysis of this one control? So easy enough, I can go over here and identify the risks. And the system will actually then look at this particular compliance requirement and the description, and it will build out 3 individual risks that it sees as being pertinent. And if I go to the Associations tab, you can see there are my 3 risks. All 3 have been identified: ineffective patch management, poor vulnerability management, inadequate secure coding practices. Let's look at ineffective patch management. So I'll bring that up over here and it's building it up. And you can see that this is the name of the risk. This is the impact of the risk. And currently, Inflectra.ai doesn't automatically give a probability and an impact. That is a human thing we do. So I would rate it the probability as the impact is very critical. And the probability is possible, hopefully not likely. And that gives us a risk exposure score of 9. We will be adding functionality in the future to allow you to have the AI suggest the possible probability and impact using the chat interface. But what we can do already is take this risk that we've identified here, and we can then mitigate it. So I go over here, I can generate the mitigations for this risk. So it's generating about 9 different mitigations. And you can see here are the 9 mitigations to reduce the severity and impact and the probability of this particular risk. Now, once you've done that, you can then reduce the probability and the impact. That will then adjust the exposure of the risk and reduce its overall risk exposure. And if we go back into the main dashboard for this project that we just created, you can see we've got our risk identified on the risk board. You can see it's been identified with an exposure score. If we go down into requirements and we hit the quality view, you can see that we're even being able to track coverage against our requirements. So we have dashboards that can let you view the information and verify any gaps. But if we go back to our requirement, one question that often comes up is, how are we checking the AI itself? And we've got some built-in checks in the system. So if you look here at our particular requirements board, I built out tests and tasks for one of the requirements. If I go here, I can use the AI to also verify the test coverage because it did generate some tests, but are we missing any? Maybe some of the other requirements are overlapping. So we can do an analysis where it will identify the test coverage and see if there are any gaps. To do that, what it does is it breaks down the description of the item here, this description, into its testable elements, compares that with the test it generated, looks at any adjacent requirements to see if they already cover it to avoid duplication, and then will give us a report as, did it find any gaps? And even though it was AI, in this case, it did generate those tests and those controls, sometimes the AI will miss something, or if it was human generated, it certainly can be useful. So in this case, it actually found that the coverage is 100%. So it was able to check itself. The requirement was broken down into 10 testable topics. Each of them are covered by an appropriate test case. So there are no identified gaps. So we've got a well-covered requirement. Now, if you look at this particular project, I built out the initial requirement set using the initial bulk feature, built out about 44 different requirements in about 10 seconds, maybe 12 seconds. And if I wanted to do the same thing with the risks and the test cases, I showed them individually so you can see them happening in action. You can do them in bulk right here by choosing the individual items or just selecting all, and then you can use the navigation to generate test cases, generate risks, and generate tasks. So everything we did individually can, of course, be done in bulk. And if you do that, we can build out an entire compliance project from start to finish in probably about 1 to 2 minutes. An exercise that would usually take maybe hours or days to do manually. And with the checking built in, we check the requirements, we check the coverage. There's lots of features built into it to make sure that we're checking ourselves, not just generating content. So that's an overview of some of the Inflectra AI functionality specific to compliance projects. I hope you enjoyed it.